This is Joe Biden signing the CHIPS Act.
President Biden signing the CHIPS Act, which could aid Intel in its $20 billion investment.
President Biden signed the $280 billion CHIPS and Science Act into law today.
Because I signed into law the CHIPS and Science Act, we're accelerating the progress. This new law makes historic investments for companies to build advanced manufacturing facilities here in America.
A decisive move and a strong reply to the growing Chinese threat. It's a play that both the Democrats and Republicans actually agree on. It aims to restore America's leadership in semiconductor production by investing over $52 billion to bring the industry back to US soil. In the 1990s, the US led the world with a 37% market share of semiconductor manufacturing, but this figure has dropped to a measly 12%. But this act is set to change everything. It's vowing that the US government will make its most advanced microchips domestically, a big claim that has locked the US in a Cold War with China. How did it come to this? While there are many different pieces to the story, the underlying truth is that the American government got too comfortable as a global superpower, and this has put its national security at risk. Now, the US and the entire world is dependent on a single company for all of its most advanced microchips. This company is called Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC. But this wouldn't be such a big issue if TSMC didn't have most of its facilities in Taiwan, a mere 130 kilometers from the Chinese mainland, separated by a body of water that is becoming one of the most militarized zones in the world. These chips are crucial for cutting-edge technology, including military equipment used by both China and the US. This over-reliance on TSMC has created a dramatic and a very urgent situation for the entire world. The recent CHIPS Act has really cranked up the tension, signaling that we're in the throes of a new Cold War between the two countries who want to run the global order. The future is uncertain, and the world is on edge as these two superpowers race towards a finish line that is defined by the capabilities of these microchips and the control over their supply chains. But while China has this advantage of proximity to Taiwan, Taiwan's allegiance to the United States and its network of allies forms a critical counterbalance to China's ambition for global dominance. China is surrounded by countries it doesn't consider allies, and now has a growing US military presence near its borders. This show of power from both sides has a continued focus on Taiwan. While Taiwan often finds itself as the center of discussion on the modern tech supply chain, it's really not the only choke point. And to understand these modern trade policies and global power shift for natural resources, we need to understand the most influential supply chain in the world, starting all the way from its core to the finished product, the semiconductor. For now, we're going to focus on one of the most urgent and revealing aspects of the semiconductor industry, the production of silicon wafers. Without silicon wafers, we wouldn't be able to have semiconductors. The silicon wafer production chain highlights a deeper supply chain issue that has yet to be fully addressed by any country. And understanding the complexity of silicon wafer production is essential for understanding modern geopolitics, because it plays a pivotal role in the broader tech supply chain, a supply chain that starts deep within the Earth's core. Nestled in the veins of ancient rock lies quartz, a crystalline form of silica and the starting point to fabricating a silicon wafer. Quartz is a common mineral and it makes up about 12% of the Earth's crust. But the quartz we typically find isn't what we can call pure, meaning it's made up of a lot of other rocks and metals and not just quartz. In the quest to create semiconductors, the goal is to have the purest possible quartz, because the purer the quartz, the better the semiconductor, and therefore the better the final piece of technology, whether that be a ballistic missile, an F-35, or an iPhone. While it's technically possible to refine low-purity quartz into high-purity quartz, There would be so many impurities that the amount of energy to actually remove these from the quartz would make no economic sense for any nation or business. To get around this, big mining companies like Unimin, which is a part of Kovia, the Quartz Corp, Sibelco, and Russian Quartz are on the hunt for these elusive high-purity quartz deposits. These aren't just any ordinary rocks, they're really hidden in sparse regions of the globe and found in places like Spruce Pines, North Carolina, the Drag region of Norway, and the Kystsym area in Russia. These big mining companies extract quartz from these high-purity deposits, and then the refinement begins. They crush and grind the rocks with heavy machinery, breaking it down to eliminate the nuisance of other minerals holding on to the rock. These efforts bring the quartz to about 99.99% silicon dioxide, and for most of us would seem like enough. But it's far from the end of the purification process. Before even leaving these refineries, the quartz is chemically separated to remove traces of metal that might have survived the first round of separation, and then thermally treated at an outstandingly high temperature to get what can now be called metallurgic-grade silicon. Now, just think about the amount of energy it just took to get to this stage of the supply chain, without even talking about the energy consumption that technology uses on a day-to-day basis once it's actually been created. This energy is costly, so starting with the highest purity quartz is a massive advantage for any company that can find these deposits first. So once these companies found these high purity quartz deposits and they've basically turned this pure rock into metallurgic grade silicon, it's then exported to companies that run the next part of the supply chain, the production of something called electronic grade polysilicon. The silicon now finds its way into the electronic-grade polysilicon production industry. The process of turning metallurgic-grade silicon into electronic-grade polysilicon starts by reacting the silicon with hydrogen chloride gas to create trichlorosilane, which is then purified through distillation. In a Siemens reactor, this purified gas is heated, causing it to break down and deposit ultra-pure silicon onto rods. The result is an electronic-grade polysilicon with an incredible 99.999% purity. This process is a global endeavor with companies like Rex Silicon based in the US, Wacker Chemie in Germany, and GCL Poly in China leading the way. Now that we have this high-grade and super shiny rock, what do we do next? At the final stage before semiconductor production, we hit a major choke point in the supply chain, a highly monopolized industry that's often not talked about. Silicon wafer production is controlled by a handful of companies, making it one of the first critical bottlenecks in the tech supply chain. The journey of refined quartz, now transformed into electronic-grade polysilicon, begins here with industry giants like Shin-Etsu Chemical, Sumco Corporation, Global Wafers, Siltronic AG, and SK Siltron. These companies create the silicon wafers that are then sold to foundries like TSMC, where the real magic of semiconductor manufacturing happens. The process of producing silicon wafers involves several precise steps. First, purified quartz is melted and converted into high-purity silicon using the Czochralski process. A single crystal ingot, or boule, is then pulled from the molten silicon using a seed crystal. The ingot is sliced into thin, circular wafers with a diamond saw, which are then polished, cleaned, doped, and processed through photolithography to meet the stringent requirements of semiconductor fabrication. Japan leads the world in silicon wafer production, with Shin-Etsu Chemical and Sumco Corporation commanding 50% of the global market. Other major players like Global Wafers from Taiwan, Siltronic AG from Germany, and SK Siltron in South Korea. To fully grasp the silicon tech supply chain, we had to navigate the intricate and often treacherous geopolitical landscape. Dominance in this realm translates to both immense opportunities and grave vulnerabilities on a global scale. The reliance on a handful of key players for critical components like high-purity quartz and silicon wafers means that any disruption, whether due to political tensions, natural disasters, or economic policies, can send shockwaves through the global economy, and this is even before we reach the semiconductor production stage. The semiconductor supply chain is not just a network of industries, it's a delicate web where each strand is crucial to the whole. Initiatives like the CHIPS Act in the United States aim to mitigate these risks by incentivizing domestic production and reducing dependency on foreign suppliers. But they tend to largely focus on just the semiconductor production stage of the tech supply chain. Yet, as we've seen, there's more to the production of chips than mere foundries.